listen. It's good! Why did the cheese go to the gym?
Oh, God. I got nothing.
To get shredded.
Oh!
That joke was told to me by an 8-year-old yesterday, and it had to be done.
That's perfect. That's perfect. I was about to say, that is truly an 8-year-old joke.
We have
shredded.
We have some family friends, or the kids. The kids have 2 friends whose parents are out of town, and so they are sleeping over multiple nights. And so now we have 4 children instead of 2, and they are delightful. And one of them just watches things on YouTube and then tells jokes that he's heard from various places, and they are just hilarious.
Wow,
very fun.
That's good times, I have to say. How are you, Matt?
I am doing okay. My name is Matt Silverman. This is Colette and Matt have entered the chat, a weekly conversation about video games. And I'm joined as always by the other person speaking, Colette Bennett. Hello.
Yep, that's me. Hi.
She's here. Hi. We are figuring out what we want to do and say and talk about this week, because it's sure has been a week. So to answer your question, I am mostly fine, but not 100%, mentally well, I would say, just generally speaking. How are you?
I would say I am not mentally well at all. And that I was quite surprised this morning maybe surprised is not the right word, but I find it forever fascinating how deeply we can fool ourselves as human beings.
I know. Yeah.
I did not think I was okay, but I thought that, I'm a manager at work. So the first thing I thought was, I got to take care of my people.
Yeah.
So went to work, did my best to take care of my people. Pretty quickly was like, I'm not doing it. Like, I'm actually don't seem to have any capacity to take care of anybody right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, okay, that sucks, but life goes on, right? And then like yesterday, I tried to work as well. I mean, I did work. I worked the whole day.
Yep.
And I realized that I was making a profound amount of mistakes.
Oh, wow.
Like more than I normally make. And I make mistakes anyway because of my ADHD. So I have to like do these interesting little bits where I go really slow and I reread all my stories multiple times. And like I have lots of workarounds that I already work with. But I was like talking to one of my employees in a one-on-one. And I told him like, let me know if you need a mental health day. Yeah. And he said, what about your mental health day? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And he said it very kindly. But I think it kind of made me go, yeah, you're right.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And so, I went to my boss and I said, I think I need a mental health day tomorrow. And he was great. He was super supportive. And I went ahead and, took the day, and I got up this morning and I realized that I had actually, because I had been focused on others, because I had been focused on, I have a job and, we have an environment where I feel it's important that we keep going. And I felt like I needed to set an example. I really hadn't allowed, even after work in the evening, I hadn't allowed any time to have my feelings.
Yeah.
I felt sad, but I was also like, well, I'm just going to keep going.
Right.
So today, this morning was the morning where I was like, oh, I'm feeling it. And like, I resisted the urge to like pick up Stardew Valley, which is like my comfort blankie, or play a phone game or whatever. And I just sat there and let it happen. And it hurt super bad. Yeah. And I told Patrick some of the things I was feeling, and, he listened and he was great about it. But I was like, oh yeah, that's right. You can believe in self-care completely, and you can be all about like, telling your loved ones, like, you can do this, etc., or do that, or make sure to do this. But it's really easy to forget yourself
Yeah.
It's really easy to fall back into whatever your base childhood thing is that you learned, you know?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know, like, I just thought that was worth sharing. Several people in our Discord reached out to me personally, and I just want to say thank you to all of those people for your kindness. I told my husband this morning, it was so interesting to realize that I could not be the comforter. I had to be comforted. And I hated that because I'm so used to being there for others.
Yep.
And like wanting to care for, I think that's just part of being a woman, to be honest. Like, I think I'm kind of programmed that way. But yeah, I don't know. I guess I just wanted to share it because I was like, I wonder how many other people are feeling this. And, you know, I want to also put a side note, which is it's really hard to sit there and feel it. And if you need to do other things, if you need to play the games, if you need to do things to moderate, whatever those may be, all the immense amount of feelings you're having, that is okay too.
Of course.
I don't want to tell this story and come across like, well, I finally sat with it and everything was okay. Everything is not okay.
Right.
But I realized that in order to process the grief that I have to do some sitting and then moderate that carefully with doing things like going outside. We went and had breakfast this morning. It helped a little because I went outside. And I feel like that's all right this second I can do because I feel enormous amounts of grief and fury.
Yes.
So that is more or less what I wanted to share. I know we talked about, should we get really into politics? And, you know, should we really talk about? And I thought that the more important thing was not the politics as it was to talk about the feelings that we're having.
Totally agree. Well, thank you for sharing that. And you are hitting on something that, we are so resistant to. I am very resistant to. I think it's human nature, and certainly modern human nature to feel and say like, this feels so bad. What can I do to not feel this way? What activity, what thing can I distract? What pill or drug or medicine can I take to make this horrible pain, this feeling of pain, stop as soon as possible? And like you said, if you find something that totally takes your mind away from all of this, then God bless you. I think that's great, and I am searching for those things constantly. But you are also right to point out that part of this is going to be sitting and just feeling how shitty it is, and how much it fucking hurts, and how anxious it's going to make us. I don't want to do that, but you are reminding me that we have to do that to an extent, so that when we go out to breakfast and when we go back to Stardew, or when we find a new thing to distract us, there's a bit more processing that has been done so that you can move forward, you know? Right. And you know, none of this is rocket science, but I just, like you said, talking it out. I felt this immense need to not be alone. You know what I mean? Like, and my wife and I are both here, and we're with the kids, and we have, you know, these other kids here. But like, I felt this need to like, wouldn't it be great to just be out with a group or with a bunch of like-minded friends or peers or family, to just be out and just, you know what it was? I went to this just sort of random PTA meeting that was, you know, it was fine. It wasn't anything super useful, but it was a thing that I was like, oh, I was going to participate in this. I had committed to participate in a thing that was related to the kids' school, and I was out and I was seeing a few people and you know, saying hi to a few friends in the neighborhood. And it was totally unrelated to anything that was going on in the world or any politics or anything. But there was something about it. When was this? This was Thursday. So it was the evening of it was the evening of the day that we knew that we knew the results, right? And there was just something about like, oh, these are just normal people doing normal things, and we're just there's other people living life. Because when you work from home and you're home with your spouse or your partner, and you're just with your kids, like that does not feel like real life. That just feels like, at least for me, I'm only speaking for myself, it just feels like I'm here thinking the same anxious, sad, angry thoughts. And then anytime I open up a phone or a web browser, I'm just like, fuck all this shit. You know what I mean? It just makes you so, it's not, I'm trying really hard to not look at news and not to lower to reduce my diet of information. Right.
Yep.
But then you're just sitting alone. You're just sitting around doing nothing, which is also not. So I guess what I'm saying is I love what you're saying, and I need to do more of it. And then I also need to, there was just something nice about like being out in the world and just observing that life continued to go on.
Yep. And
it felt calamitous when you're just sitting, getting the information here alone in your own home. That's the funny thing is that, and I don't think we really realize this. I think we talk about it, but talking about it and really feeling it and understanding it are different to me. We are isolated in a way that we have never been as a society. Yeah, for sure.
In a way we have never fucking been, and we're used to it. Yep. But in a situation like this, where sorry, I'm pausing for a minute because I'm like, how deep do I want to go here? But
calibrate.
I think I'll leave it at the lightest of levels. Which to me is that I think grieving. There's a really great scene. This is not going to seem related, but bear with me. There's a really great scene in the A24 movie from Ari Aster. It was his Midsummer. I don't know if you've seen it.
Yeah, I've heard of it. No, have not seen it.
But in it, this couple traveled to Sweden to go to their friend's hometown for a Midsummer festival, and shit gets real fucked up. But one of the themes in the beginning of the film is that the couple are clearly on their way out, right? But they're not talking about the fact that they're on their way out.
Okay.
The guy was going to go to Sweden without her, and then she kind of called him on it, and then they do it and whatever. And there's this great scene closer to the end of the movie. So many things happen that would be difficult to explain without seeing it. But there's this great scene where she, this is like a whole, a whole group of people that live in this village where this festival is taking place. Mm-hmm. And they have a very specific kind of, vibe. It feels a little Baptist, but like more folklore. Mm. But there's this scene where all of the women gather around her, and it's close to the end, and she's crying in this horrible pain about like things that are happening. And she's on her knees in this room, and all the women come in, and she cries, and she kind of makes this grief sound like, and the women start to cry with her and kind of echo the sound. And it's this really powerful moment on a big screen, because you realize that what they're doing is grieving together to kind of distribute the horrible weight of the grief that she's feeling at that moment. And it's not just grief of like the relationship. I feel like it's grief of something bigger than that. Like, once again, you got to see the movie, but it made me think a lot about how we grieve alone. Yep. And how that wasn't historically how it was. One of the people in our Discord mentioned grieving together. And I wanted to say thank you for that, for mentioning that. It was Bebops, actually. Thank you, Bebops, because I think that he has a really powerful point.
Yep.
I do think that one of the few things that can help us to process something this painful and this big for a lot of us is that kind of love and togetherness.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't know.
As opposed to being angry and
alone
isolated,
and
which
isolated.
Just feels like the go-to right now for a lot of us, myself included. And you're right. And Bebops is right that we need to be with others and grieving together, because it literally is grief. It's such a fucking loss, you know?
It's a huge loss. It's a huge loss. And like, one thing I was telling my husband this morning as well is that it just brings up this agonizing history of, you know, men's unbelievable hatred of women. And when I say men, I'm not talking about the person I'm on the phone with.
No.
But like, I'm talking about a certain type of man that it's just so difficult, because I'm like, why do you hate us so much?
Yep.
Like, you would rather have a convicted felon and rapist instead of a woman. And I knew that. I knew that already, but it's just the worst when you see it actually.
It's it's so incomprehensible. And my misguided optimism about all of it was like, well, you know, we won in 2020. There cannot be a single person in this country who voted for Biden who now is like, maybe I'll switch. I had to believe like it would be the same / better, because Kamala had so much momentum and excitement. And so I'm like, well, what the fuck happened? What's different? Who switched sides? And I think some of it is probably, some analysis is probably like, well, maybe certain people did not turn out to vote, or maybe more, you know, fucking insane fascist people did turn out, maybe. But then the other piece is like, oh, right, there are so many people, so many white men in America who are like, I don't know if a woman's going to be up for this, whether consciously or subconsciously. And we lost those votes. And therefore, here we are.
Well, yeah. And then combine that with the amount of, you know, quote unquote, good Christian women who are going to vote with their husband votes, which is crushing.
It's crushing.
It's crushing. And it's like, do I know they're there? Of course. But like, oh God, yeah. So much, so many problematic things.
Same with people of color and people of immigrant, who are immigrants or maybe second generation. Like, there's a block of voters who are like, I'm good, I got mine, fuck everyone else. And when you see that, it's also like, oh my God, what? Where are you? Yeah. Who are you? What are you reading? What are you? And the answer is we know the poison that has seeped into the culture, obviously. So
we know that's true. So anyway, you know, could we go on and on and on? Absolutely, we could go on and on and on. We're still going to talk about games today, because I feel like there's escape in games. I feel like there's healing in games. I feel like there's so many things that we find in our different forms. You know, I was walking today when I went and had lunch, and on the way to the place, which I've never been because I live in a new neighborhood.
Oh yeah.
There was a little free library, and they always make me happy, but this particular one made me really happy.
Like a little take a book, leave a book kind of hutch. Yeah.
But this one I was drawn to because I saw what was written on the side was "Not all those who wander are lost," and it was written in like Elvish kind of style. And I was like, "Oh, so cool!" They did like a Tolkien kind of themed one. And then I went and looked on the other side, and on the other side they had painted Bilbo's door, and the quote there was, "Even the smallest person can change the course of the future."
Oh, beautiful. Yeah.
I needed to see that. I really needed to see that, because I believe that. And I believe that what's going to happen with all this anger is that it's going to crystallize, and it's going to harden, and it is going to become something that fuels us further. But right now, I just need to be really sad. Right.
Yes. It's not time to reply. That I'm going to choose that word, reply to this situation, but in time we can rebuild whatever it is, whether that's a social movement or a protest or a political party, and respond to this somehow.
Yeah.
And yeah, I've been thinking about like, I don't know, my personal place. I'm trying really hard not to feel responsible. You know, like my I don't know why my first reactions were like, I wish I need to convince people. I need to fix this. I should have done more to volunteer. I should have contributed more. Like not like it's my fault, but I feel like why didn't I do more was my first reaction, which is so ridiculous. But
no, I don't think it is ridiculous. Actually, I think it's pretty normal. I think it's pretty normal to feel like, because you want to believe that you could have done more, so you want to believe you have that type of control, that I could have made a difference. And what what you're actually fighting against is a feeling of abject powerlessness, correct,
which is so existentially like draining. And so what I have started to say is like, you know what, when, you know, maybe I will join a protest. You know, am I going to be like organize a protest? I am not necessarily that person, but you know, you and I come from a journalistic background, and so there was a time in our lives where like, and my wife was a journalist too. So like when people would come around with petitions, like even if we agreed with the person, we were like, I'm so sorry, we work in journalism. We're not able to sign. We can't declare we can't put up political signs. We can't sign petitions, blah, blah, blah. But now we're in different worlds and we're different spaces. And so I feel like the next time a political action or a protest or something comes, I want to I feel like I need to participate in it, you know, somehow.
Yeah.
And I don't know, that's just different for me. That's a different moment for my life, I guess.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Processing. We will keep processing as we go.
We will.
For right this second, though, this is where we are, and I'm glad we shared it, because I think it's good to share. And I just want to reiterate that, you know, everyone's already been talking in our Discord.
Yeah.
I hope you guys know that it's a safe space. I hope you feel that way about it. And just know that we can keep talking. And it's always a safe space there. That's what we always wanted to create. And I intend to keep that what it is.
Beautifully said. Perfect. Right now, you know what time it is.
That actually gave me a real true laugh. Thank you. I cracked myself up. So we talked about some news items before hopping on today. And one of the ones that Matt said that I was really excited about was Nintendo confirming that that the Switch 2 will be backwards compatible.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Backwards compatibility is just such a, like, it just seemed like it just became like it just doesn't happen anymore thing.
Yeah.
For consoles for such a long time. And I'm just so relieved that they chose to do this, because there's so much on. I mean, I'm going to buy a Switch 2 no matter what.
Yep.
Day one, if I can get it. But like, it would be super, super great to not have to also keep the original Switch and have it all playable in one thing.
Yep.
So I'm just happy that they made that choice. That's all. And I mean, I know that we don't buy physical games as much anymore as we used to. That probably makes it easier. But I'm just happy about it.
Well, that's what I wanted to get at. Not a programmer, not a technologist. And I understand that architecture of the game of computers changes and evolves. So there is always a cutoff point. You know, I can't run the Windows Vista version of a game on Windows 10 or 11. I understand how I loosely understand this, but we are in a world where if you buy the iPhone, I don't even know where we are with iPhones. If you buy the iPhone 11, it will run the apps from iPhone 9. You know what I mean? So like, this idea that the next computer that you buy won't run the things from the previous computer kind of needs to go away. It is going away, and it needs to go away because it's so ridiculous. And I don't fully understand why PS4 games need to be upgraded or changed to run, and that backwards compatibility was like, maybe we'll have it, but maybe we won't. I don't get it, but I hope that we are moving towards a world where that is over.
Yeah.
And now we can just enjoy the library, and that you can turn the Switch to, and let me just clarify, the Nintendo has continued to call it the successor to Nintendo Switch. It is not the Switch 2. We don't know what it's called. The successor, whatever that may be. That you will turn it on, you will log in, and you will download whatever you want, and all your friends will be there, your online systems will be there, like every other fucking device that currently exists.
Yep.
Your Kindle, your phone, your tablet, your TV, it's all the same. Let's
just makes sense. I mean, to me, it just makes sense. Like at one point, right? I think, when the model was different overall, it would make sense. Like, well, we want you to buy our new console. And so to buy our new console, we need to give you a reason. And so none of our new games are going to be playable on anything other than just this console, right? It's like, okay, all that makes sense. I think I get that.
And you're making leaps from an 8-bit to a 16-bit, or a 16-bit to a 32-bit system. Like, those are dramatic exponential leaps in technology.
Right.
The media has to read different. The processing has to look at the bits and bytes differently because of the architecture. Like, that was a different time. I get that. But yes,
yeah, different. So yeah, I'm very pleased about that, as I'm pleased about a Switch 2 in general, and I'm pleased about everything that will mean. I would say that. Wow, this is really a stretch, but if I really, 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 really feel it out, I think the Switch might be my favorite Nintendo console of all time.
Right. I know. I think, well,
I mean, beating the NES is really hard for me for nostalgic purposes.
That's very interesting. Yeah.
But I thought about it and I was just like, really though, like, the NES is like, the nostalgia is there, of course. But like, really, if I think about the games and I think about, man, what am I just dying to go back and play? What was just so great on the NES? There's really not a ton.
Sure.
Like, you go back and you're like, oh my God, I remember this. But then you're like, this was so fucking hard, or this was so obtuse, or like, that's how I feel about it. And
well, you're right, but it's two different things. Like, what will I go back and play today in 2024? Not much. But what did I love, and what introduced me to what games could be and what the possibilities were? That's true. That was a different moment in time and in our childhood. So
that's true.
Very interesting conversations there, perhaps.
Yeah, it gives me a lot to think about. That's a really good point. I mean, I don't know, like maybe if I think about it like that, I'm like, they're side by side for me. But at any rate, obviously, the Switch was just terrific for me in every way. So
I feel very similar, though I'd place the Super Nintendo as my go-to sort of childhood console, because that's the one that was like, oh, right, you can have a 65-hour experience with characters and worlds that you probably couldn't have from a storytelling or mechanical perspective on older systems. So that's my go-to. But I do agree with you. As a person who does not own any other consoles, the Switch is our number one. It is the place where the family gathers for games. It is the place where my children have grown up playing Switch games. That is their primary experience for games.
Yeah.
So that makes it special for us. And yeah, I mean, I mentioned this in the Discord too, but like, obviously getting whatever the Switch 2 is, obviously I will purchase it. There's very little reason I would not purchase it, but there is a world where it was like, let's wait and see, and what are the reviews, and what are the games, and is this a day one purchase? But now that it is backwards compatible, and like you said, you turn it on and all your existing Switch games like run better,
Yeah.
then I don't see a reason to wait.
Yeah.
Aside from like maybe you'll get a discount or something on the holiday. I don't, you know. So okay, so I'll read the tweet just for posterity here. This is from Nintendo Co. Limited, which is it's the Japanese corporate account, or one of them anyway. And it reads, "This is Furukawa. At today's corporate management policy briefing, you got to start out your tweets. If you want engagement, my friends, okay, I'm a social media expert. If you want hashtag engagement on your social media posts, always preface them with, at today's corporate management policy briefing, we announced that Nintendo Switch software will also be playable on the successor to Nintendo Switch. Nintendo Switch Online will be available on the successor to Nintendo Switch as well. Further information about ... Wait, is there more? Well, it's in Japanese. Oh, no, it's not, and it's in English. Further information about the successor to Nintendo Switch, including its compatibility with Nintendo Switch, will be announced at a later date. So my questions for you are twofold. One, let's hope and pray that the Nintendo eShop online experience will be dramatically improved on whatever this device is.
That would be nice.
Because God almighty, it is just a web browser. It's just a shitty-ass web browser that loads web pages really shittily and slowly. And so let's hope there's some more like responsive, dynamic way to browse the store and play demos and watch videos and blah, blah, blah. And number two, this feels like the closest corporate messaging that we've gotten to saying like, hey, everyone, we're about to announce it. We're about to show you it. They're saying here at a later time, but they're basically saying like, everything you know and love about your Switch that you're holding in your hand right now is going to be in the next thing. And we're going to tell you about the next thing at some time. So my question for you, do we feel like this is a November, Thanksgiving, early December kind of announcement? Or do we feel like this is going to be 2025 before we actually see anything?
I find this hard. I'm just going to guesstimate. I'm going to guesstimate 2025.
Yeah. Oh, so you think it's going to be further?
I think, but I'd love to be surprised.
Excuse me. This I don't see why this would have any bearing on what would happen with the next Switch, but the original Nintendo Switch was unveiled on October 20th, 2016 and released March of 2017. So I don't know why this would map to the current playbook, but if we were to speculate and pretend that that was part of the strategy, that it's like announce late in the year and then spring of next year kind of thing, like there's no world where this is released for the holidays of 2024.
No, I can't imagine it, honestly. Like, it's really hard for me to grasp that could happen.
Right.
But, maybe that's, that would be honestly great. Like if
that'd be really fun.
Something to be like excited about for the fall. I think that would be really fun.
Yep. So we'll see. Yeah. But it's exciting. It's fun to speculate, and maybe we'll see a few more leaks and rumors popping out.
I'd be cool with that. I'd be totally cool with that.
More to discuss. Well, speaking of video games on small mobile devices and screens, the New York Times Tech Guild announced that they are on strike. This was Monday, so that was a day before, right before Election Day. So that was kind of, it was certainly newsworthy because, the journalists, to my understanding, are not on strike, and the New York Times did all of its normal coverage, but the programmers and the technologists that make the digital assets of the New York Times run and available, and the election systems and the needles and the graphs. They went on strike, citing they're asking for certain protections that the journalists get, and also what else was issues related to remote hybrid work, just cause protections, which the newsroom union has, and disputes about pay and equity, etc. These are normal reasons that guilds and unions go on strike. But as it relates to video games, this guild includes the people who build or support New York Times games like Wordle and Spelling Bee and the rest. I don't typically check in on these games, but they're obviously very popular.
I do. I play them regularly. Yep.
And we had Jeff Petriello, who's a former colleague of mine who works for New York Times Games. I've been meaning to reach out for him. He was a guest on our show to talk about the New York Times Games strategy, which is just super compelling. Of subscribe to the Times for journalism and subscribe to the Times to make sure that responsible journalism continues to happen in this country now more than ever. But also but hey, you get this benefit of hey, I'm really plugged in. I'm really addicted to Wordle. It's my morning routine. I play it with my friends. That is this value add, this gaming value add that I think, there's many members of my family who are not video gamers who play these games obsessively. And I think it's fantastic.
I think these games, just as a quick aside, I think these games make you feel like you're smarter or you're getting smarter or keeping sharp. And I like them for that reason. That's all.
Absolutely. No, that's what they're there for. And so the guild, which is currently on strike, is now asking players to stop playing, to take a break from that, because not you're breaking the, what do you call it? It's not exactly crossing the picket line, but in a way they're saying if you stop playing the games, you are showing solidarity with this guild. And that is that's interesting and it's compelling, especially because Wordle streaks are everything to Wordle players.
So if people don't play... Interesting. I did not think about it that way.
Are you willing to break your Wordle streak in order to show support for this striking union? I'm not asking you personally. I'm just saying this is just a funny, fascinating conundrum that we are now presented with as gamers, as people who enjoy games. And I don't know. I don't know that we've ever. I can't think of another scenario in video games where. Many developers have formed unions or gone on strike, but it's different because it's I've already purchased this game, or I will choose not to purchase this game. But it's But here's it's like if Epic Games developers who make Fortnite go on strike, should you then be playing Fortnite? That would be an equivalent thing. Sort of, or should you be playing? Should you be buying skins? Should you be buying V-Bucks? So I don't know. It's a very. I thought this would make an interesting topic of conversation.
It definitely is. I think, I would call myself a casual player. I would definitely not call myself the kind of player that checks in every single day. So because of that, I think about this question and I think, well, sure, why not? I can stop, for to show solidarity. I think that's fine. But I don't think I have the same kind of commitment to a person who Wordles every day and has for the past 3 years or something.
For years.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that is really interesting because it kind of makes me think I tend to think, especially after the election, I tend to think, people really won't stop. Very few people will just stop a thing for solidarity if it inconveniences them.
Most people won't even know about this or care about it. Especially, I thought about this a little bit because I saw this news because you and I are plugged into this world, and it was part of a newsletter that I subscribed to. So I was like, oh, interesting. But it this is a guild of workers that's like, hey, everyone, on the most catastrophic, consequential, psychotic night in modern American history, can you all stop playing Wordle? And so I was immediately like, while the timing of the strike is important because they're striking in order to show the impact of their work on election coverage. So the opportunity to strike was very critical, and I kind of support that, and I understand why they did it. The news came out, and I was like, ooh, I should send this to people I know who play Wordle to be like, hey, you should be aware that these workers are on strike. But I didn't, because holy fucking shit, our country's on fire and nobody gives a shit about this at this moment.
Yeah.
There's more. Labor is important. Striking is important. But there are slightly more important things that I need to be sending and talking about with friends and family at this moment in time. So it was this weird thing that I just stopped to consider and found interesting.
Yeah, no, I get that. And I agree with you. I do think that it is maybe not the best timing, but it kind of is what it is, I guess, isn't it?
It is the best and worst timing for a variety of reasons. So maybe I might pass it along maybe next week or say, I'd be like, hey, by the way, wonder if you saw this. Isn't this interesting? So, yeah. We'll see. What else we got in the old news bag here?
Well, you had mentioned to me about a Mass Effect TV series, which I think is actually a really cool idea. I almost feel like I might like this more than I like the actual game.
Yeah.
Do you feel that way too?
I never became a huge fan of Mass Effect. I played all 3 games. I got my time in with them. I enjoyed them for what they were. What I did very much enjoy is the existential nature of what the game is putting forward in terms of like the story. I really did like thinking about that and understanding that, but I did not become deeply connected to the characters necessarily. The way other fans of this franchise are like, the romancing and the loyalty missions and who's in your squad and you got to save everyone. And, I love that, but I did not feel compelled by that. But I was also playing them when my daughter was an infant. So I was my brain was probably made of mush at that time in my life.
Yes.
But I plucked this out because every time you can't swing a dead cat around here without hitting another video game that's turning into a movie or a TV show. This is just the next one, which is cool.
Yeah. I mean, I will say that I feel slightly more hopeful than I used to about these adaptions because some of them lately have been so good.
Yeah, they've been quite good.
I'm like, wow, for the longest time, it just seemed like no one really got it. And then it finally hit a point where I was like, oh, I think some of these filmmakers are getting it. That's so nice.
Yep.
So I'm very excited about that piece of it. I never connected to Mass Effect in the way that a lot of people did either. I remember how exciting it was when it was coming out. A lot of people were just incredibly jazzed about this game. And I think for myself, it didn't hit the way I needed it to hit personally. But I mean, I obviously, I respect the franchise. I feel like it obviously really was great for a lot of people that played it and enjoyed it. So will I run to watch this? Probably not. If, someone is like, hey, the Mass Effect show is out, you want to try it? I'd probably be like, yeah, sure.
Or if someone's like, hey, I know you're not a big fan, but like this show's pretty good. Like you should check it. It's a great sci-fi show. Then I would. I'm interested.
I mean, I'm not like an obsessive Fallout player, for instance, but I loved the show. Oh my God, I loved the show.
I need to check it out at some point.
So good. I could just go on and on about that, really.
Yep.
So yeah, I don't know. I don't think you necessarily have to be a massive fan of the game to enjoy, a show about it.
And that is part of this omni-media, transmedia strategy of like, if you just make a great zombie show, then maybe people are like, oh, that's sorry, I'm saying Walking Dead, but that's not it. Last of Us.
Last of Us, yeah.
Then people are like, "Oh, that's a video game. Oh, check it out." You know, it expands the scope and footprint of the franchise to people who are not diehard fans. So if you just make a spectacular sci-fi space drama that happens to be set in the Mass Effect universe, you know, Mass Effect has. The core trilogy is beloved, but like the ending of the third game is not great.
Yeah, I remember that.
Respected. You know, I think the diehard fans are like, that's a shame, and I personally found it to be a bit of a whiff. And then Andromeda was a total shitstorm. BioWare as a company seems to have lost its footing or lost its way. They do not seem to be putting out bangers. And Veilguard, Dragon Age, again, we talked a little bit about it last week, and I just been paying attention to it because I'm genuinely curious if this game is doing well. And overall, people are like, yeah, the combat is fun and the world is cool, but the writing is just abysmal. And that's like, I don't know, man. That's
yeah. It's
when
funny.
You think of a BioWare game, you think that that's going to be where it is, and they really seem to have whiffed out on this one as well. So. In a world where these franchises are struggling to hit the mark, they're like, yes, green light the TV series. That's the way to go. It's just interesting. I don't know if this is going to save it or put the nail in the coffin for some of this stuff.
Ooh, that's a really good point. I don't know. I mean, it's like, for instance, I have a friend this morning I was talking to, and he was like, this game is just nailing it for me. Dragon Age. It's just nailing it for me. Yeah, sure. It is the most perfect game for me I have played in a really long time. Yep. And I love that he was like, for me versus just like totally. In general, you know, because he knew that it wasn't necessarily everyone's thing. But like, I've had several friends really excited about it too. So I don't know. Like, yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens. Like I said, I would watch it if it was put in front of me. I think that's the best way to put it.
Just to add some context, it is being made by Amazon MGM Studios. Mm-hmm. So MGM, MGM was bought by Amazon, for better or worse. Written and executive produced by Daniel Casey, who wrote the 9th Fast and Furious movie. I've never seen a Fast and Furious movie, but obviously they seem like fun action movies that people fucking go nuts for.
Yep, they do.
And also executive produced by Karim Zrek. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. Who apparently was connected to the Jessica Jones TV show.
Oh, okay.
And Ari Arad, who did Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, which is obviously beloved. I've never seen any of this media, as I am not a comic book person, but Into the Spider-Verse is beloved by Spidey fans across this globe. So it seems like a pretty good team for this franchise. It seems like a good roster here. It does.
Definitely. So yeah, we'll see what happens. In development, but I think it's going to be a while.
Officially announced, officially in development. Female shepherd or male shepherd? Which way will they go with the protagonist? Because you can go either direction in the games, and there is some consensus among the fandom that female shepherd is more interesting because the voice actor, I forget her name, she's very famous, gives a better performance. So I think the quote unquote femme shep is usually the one that fans are bigger on. So it will be interesting to see if they will canonically go with a male or female protagonist here.
Yeah. I think that will be interesting too. One more news piece that you had mentioned that I had not seen at all, so I'm really glad that you mentioned it, was about Warcraft 2 Remastered has seemingly leaked.
Maybe.
Now, I never played Warcraft 2. I was a big Blizzard fan and always was really into Diablo.
Yeah.
But some people have found some leaks that certainly look like a Warcraft 2 remastered internal alpha. For those of you who have no idea what we're talking about, Warcraft 2 Tides of Darkness is a fantasy real-time strategy game. Originally came out in 1995. I did not play it myself at that time. I'm sure that at least some of our listeners probably did. Did you play it?
Oh, did I play it?
Oh, you're like, yeah!
Let me tell you, friends, back in 1995, my parents had a separate telephone line for the internet. And so I would connect my modem to the computer telephone. And then I would dial my friend, my good friend, who I still see and hang out with and play music with and play video games with to this day. And I would connect to his phone line, but his family only had one phone line. So he'd have to like make sure he talked to his mom, like, okay, I'm playing Warcraft now, so no one can use the phone. And then I would connect to I would put his phone number in and into the Warcraft client, and it would be like beep boop beep beep beep, and it would go and then we would connect, and then we'd be in a lobby together, and then we would play Warcraft on our whatever IBM computers for hours and hours, and we'd play like scenarios where we were teaming up together, or we'd play scenarios where we were versing each other, or you'd have a lot of AI, and it's a real it is. Warcraft and Age of Empires are the progenitors of all modern real-time strategy games. So this was the shit. This was our jam, and we would play it for hours and hours, at least until we were told to go to bed, or until someone picked up the phone and interrupted our connection. And it was this constant thing of like, oh shit, you're disconnected, and then you're like, okay, the computers were disconnected, and then someone would call each other on the phone to be like, hey, why did you disconnect? I don't know. What happened? Okay, hang up the phone and I'll reconnect. Okay. And then you would try to connect the computers again. Again, this was not, to my understanding, this was not like an internet lobby where you would like friend someone. This was literally your modem calling your friend's modem. And that's how you played Warcraft 1 and 2 online together. And it is funny I plucked this story out because real-time strategy games have come and gone, and they might be having a little renaissance now. And it's interesting that we live in a world where Diablo 2 has been remastered, and so many of the games from this era, Age of Empires has been remastered, but like War and World of Warcraft, Warcraft went on to become the MMO that it is today. But I think modern players are not really connected to Warcraft 2 specifically. And StarCraft obviously was also huge, StarCraft 1 and 2. So the fact that those there has never been a breath of utterance of remastering any of those games has been interesting in the context of Blizzard Activision being acquired by Microsoft and whatever. So when I saw this news, I was like, oh, this is not surprising, and funny that it has taken so long for this to actually happen. But now that it might be happening, asterisk. It's like, whoa, okay. So will this be PC? Will this be a console thing? Could this be a mobile version that you could play online on a tablet? This would be. I'm eagerly anticipating whether this will come to fruition.
Yeah, I think this is super cool for you because obviously, not having played it, I don't have any of the memories, but I remember the time period, and I know that this has to be like the most nostalgic, wonderful possible thing. And I just hope it lives up to the expectations that you have.
I don't even think I want to play it. Like, I don't know if you know.
Really?
If it would but well, I would definitely check it out. But like, would it hold up against modern games? What does a game like this need? Does it need a fresh coat of paint? Does it need to look sexier and like run better? Or does it need to be like a one-to-one recreation of the original? That's an interesting discussion of like remakes and remasters. Will it be some fucking mobile gotcha microtransaction bullshit version that everyone hates? They just released an Age of Empires mobile game, and I think people were like, whoa, Age of Empires. And the consensus there is like, it's fucking terrible. Like, it is a huge, shitty, don't waste your time thing. So like, I don't know. It's fun to see this and speculate and see what that's going to turn into. So that's it. Are you excited about a Warcraft 2 remaster? Did you play those games in ye olden days of dial-up modems? Please let us know. While Colette coughs to death.
While I choke.
While she chokes to death. We'll take a little break, and then we'll come back and talk about games we're playing right after this. How fare you with Silent Hill 2 and Metaphor ReFantazio? I look, I never just do Fantasio. When I do it, I always ReFantazio because I like to get the extra.
Fantasio.
You gotta redo it. So that's just my personal take. Where are you? How are you? How are you doing with all these beloved, beautiful games?
So I am actually kind of bummed about Silent Hill because I can't, not because of the game. Game's great. Mm-hmm. I can't play it right now. I'm too
too anxious.
My mental health is not good enough.
Yeah.
Like literally not good enough. So I was like, man, you know what? I love James' plight and I never get tired of it, but I really and truly am just like, I can't handle his trauma right now. Yeah. Sorry, James. I can't. So, I haven't picked it back up in probably about a week, I would say.
Yeah.
But I did yesterday. I was like, well, this is one of the worst weeks on planet Earth. And I think that means that I should just cave and buy Metaphor. And also I had just gotten paid and I was like, I'm going to do that. Yep. So I did that and I played for a little while last night and it did not make me less sad, but it certainly did help. I think, it took me a little while to slip back into where I was. This is a problem I have with all games.
Yes.
Like, where was I and what was I doing at this point in time in the game? But I was able to kind of grasp it a little. And I went through one dungeon area. It was so funny. I went through it. I played for about an hour, and then I got to a save room, and I was like, oh yeah, that's right. This is a Shin Megami Tensei type game, meaning that there are day and night cycles, and that you don't necessarily complete complete a dungeon in one run. And I had forgotten that. Oh, okay. I had zoned a little bit. And I was like, oh, right. I don't have to finish it all until I saved and I left. And I was like, they'll basically be like, you have until, let's just say hypothetically, November 16th to complete this dungeon. Yeah. And so you can go do that whenever you want or need.
And I'm sorry, that's I don't actually know this. Is that in-game calendar or that's actual real life?
It's an in-game calendar.
It's in-game. Okay, yeah.
So how it works is that, every day is a new day and you wake up that day and you have a variety of things that you're allowed to do. So you get to choose what they are though. So you could be like, because you have qualities just like the Persona games have this too, where for instance, in order for you to date certain people, you have to level up your charisma, your charm, stuff like that. Yeah. This is a little bit more based on empathy is one of your qualities. And it's kind of cool because you have to talk to people that are from different races or different religious beliefs to build your empathy. Yeah. Which is neat.
That's okay. Wow.
Yeah. I thought that was really neat.
Just from playing the demo, and I don't know how we didn't touch on this too deeply, but racism and xenophobia is like core concept in the storyline right out of the gate. And it's very anime. It's very heavy handed, but it's a core theme.
Absolutely a core theme. So yeah, I like that because I've never really seen that done in a AAA game before. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I like that. So yeah, just,
all these beautiful white people can't get along in Metaphor ReFantazio.
I know that is one problem for sure, and this is such a common thing. I feel like in so many games, like if you're gonna make a game that's about like political and like race differences, you might want to make some of the people different colors. I mean, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It just is what it is. I just gotta say it.
Yep.
That's it. Yeah. So yeah, but enjoying kind of like it took me all of last night because I'm so out of it to kind of regroove into, oh yeah, that's right. Like I'm playing an Atlas game. I'm playing a Persona team style game. This is how the rhythm works.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, cool. And by the end of like the evening, I was like, okay, got it. Like I remember now. But I was once again like picking it back up, just like stunned by a lot of the things that I really liked about it. And Patrick was watching it with me, and he was like, "This fucking game is beautiful."
Yeah.
And I was like, I really did not think that like Persona 5 could be surpassed, but goddamn, it's pretty.
Yeah.
So I feel like I kind of need to get a little deeper because really, even though the demo is as long as it is, it really just scrapes the beginning of the game.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh man, well, I guess I get to dig in a little deeper now. And having
you feel like well, wait, did you get it on PlayStation or Steam?
I got it on Steam.
Okay.
Yeah, I decided to play it on PC because, and I don't think I've shared this yet, but our house, because we have a 4-bedroom house, and obviously we don't need fucking 4 bedrooms. Mm-hmm. We now have a PC cafe.
Yes, you did. You did share this, and So I was curious if you've connected the PC to a TV in the room, or are you playing on like a fancy monitor? Yeah.
TV. I mean,
beautiful.
Honestly, we have it kind of set up where you can sit at it as well because my husband is crazy. So I went in there and he was like literally staring into like a 55-inch TV from like beautiful. 2 feet away.
Living the dream.
It's like, nice, honey. But yeah, so I've been playing it up there. It's comfy. I think we're going to get one of those like old, kind of like funny neon, like PC cafe signs.
Yeah.
Cause like you have to, how can you not?
Of course.
So yeah, I think we're going to do that. Yes, please. But yeah, I really like it, having a nice time like with that. And I think I'll probably pick it up again today. I don't know when I'll feel good enough to pick Silent Hill 2 back up. I'm going to. I know I have to. It's just too important to me not to.
Yeah.
But during this week and the aftermath of this week, I just can't deal.
And you will. And I've been thinking about that similarly of like, it's not a one-to-one, but like the news where we have a real fucking radio in our kitchen, and it is just tuned to NPR in WNYC here in New York. And I like to turn it on when I'm making breakfast or whatever. But there are some days where it's just like, I cannot, just turning this on will be like, and here's how shitty the world is, everybody.
No.
And so I will go days, sometimes a week, being like, I cannot turn this dial on. And then I'll wake up one morning on a Wednesday being like, yeah, okay, I'm ready to know what's happening. I'm ready.
That's how it always is.
And I have to know, and I have to check, and my body and mind is back and prepared to know. And I think that will happen to you with this game. You'll just be walking around, blah, 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 and you're like, oh, I got to go back to Silent Hill 2. I need to see it. I'm ready to get in.
It's killing me because I keep seeing these little, I'm in this Silent Hill community on Facebook, and I keep seeing people commenting about little things that I find kind of stunning. Like one of the things they said that I was like, wow, was that throughout the game, while you're playing, especially if you're playing in headphones, you'll hear like a noise that you just kind of assume is like the ambient horror noise of like the game, which, because you hear so many fucked up noises while you're playing it. And one of them is like kind of like a breathing noise. And you're like, okay, And then when you get to the point where you have there's a pivotal point, because I don't think you've ever played it. There's a pivotal point in the game where James realizes that he killed his own wife. And I don't think this is a spoiler. The game is quite old. And he killed her because she was terminally ill and he didn't want to see her suffer anymore, I guess. But he also murdered her. So there's that. So anyway, there's a scene. What happens is he makes it to a specific location in the game and he watches a videotape, and the videotape makes him remember. And while you're watching that tape, Mary's alive, but she's in a bed and she's quite sick. And you hear her breathing, and you realize that he's been hearing that breathing sound throughout the entire game.
Whoa.
And I was like, fuck. And then I was
that's a little piece of audio fidelity that probably could not have happened on a PS2, in terms of like how many audio channels and how much fidelity do you have on this thing? Wow.
Exactly. And I was like, oh my God. And then I was like, I got to put headphones on because I haven't done that yet. And I was just like, God, like that is really, really cool. And then today I saw, which I never knew from the original game, and I don't think the fidelity graphically would have allowed for it either, but someone turned on like a filter, and they like were able to show that when in the very first scene of the game, you see James in a bathroom, like at a roadside stop. And he's parked his car and he's in the bathroom, and then he comes out and, you see his car and you see it kind of overlooking Silent Hill, but they turned up this filter. And when they turn up the filter, you actually realize that there's a body wrapped in a blanket in the back of his car. And I was like,
you don't notice it unless the filter's on for whatever contrast or color reason.
I think it would be very hard to see otherwise.
Yep.
But like some people were saying, oh, there's this one ending where this happens. I don't want to say what it is. There's this one ending where this and this happens. And like, you find out that like, yes, that would be Mary's body in the back of the car. And I was just like, fuck. Like an obvious, like you couldn't know without the level of fidelity that's here, or, like you said, like having new sound options, you couldn't know that. And that must have been so much fun for Bloober. I can't even begin to imagine how much fun.
Love it. Yeah. It's creating a world where you can hide things and be mysterious. Like you can do that in a film or a show, but there's only so many frames in that media. So like people can decode it pretty, the internet can decode a movie's Easter eggs pretty quickly. But I like the culture. I like the fandom slowly uncovering things inside games.
Me too. I think it's just incredibly, incredibly cool. So yeah, I am excited to get to that at the point where it is right for me to get to that.
Magnificent. Any other, besides those two, any other things sneaking in there? Any other Switch games, mobile games popping up?
No, not yet. Just kind of doing those I've Stardewed a little. I don't even mention it anymore because I'm just like, I know now that it is 150% like my comfort thing. Also, a little bit of a small note. 1.6 finally came to Switch. Yeah.
1.6.9, which also has additional little tidbits, I think.
Oh,
right?
I don't think I knew that.
Or maybe it's just patching, issues or whatever. But yes, console Switch is out now.
Yep.
What have you played much of it and encountered anything relevant?
I played a little, and I encountered one scene last night that really charmed me. For those who are familiar with the game, and I'm kind of like, well, who isn't? But whatever. There's a homeless character in the game. And so he's kind of, clearly kind of he's a character that chooses to live in the woods on purpose, right? And so I had never seen the scene.
Eccentric, maybe it would be one way to say.
Yeah, like he likes it. He repeatedly says he likes living this way. So anyway, in the scene, which I had never seen, and I don't know if it's real, like new from 1.6 or whether I just never saw it. You actually have a scene with Linus is his name, with Linus and with the carpenter woman, can't remember her name. And
Robin?
like Robin.
Okay.
They bump into him outside of Robin's shop, and they're talking to him, and then I have the option to ask him if he wants to come live on my farm.
Oh,
and I was like, oh, neat. I know I've never seen that.
I've never heard of that.
Right. And so I was like, huh. And so I asked because I thought, well, why not? Could Linus come live on your farm? That'd be neat. And he actually says, thank you so much for like caring about me this much, but I'm really happy this way.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
And I was like, that's so touching.
Yeah.
And I was like, just another one of those like Stardew moments. Here I am so many years into the game, and maybe it's 1.6, but I've never seen that scene.
A bit of a misdirect. That could easily have been in the game previously, but it sets you up to be like, whoa, could he work on the farm? Would he be like an NPC on your farm?
Right?
Like, but then it's like,
I'd never seen that.
Yeah,
I'd never seen that. So I was like, that would be crazy. But then I was even more touched by the fact that he was like, I like living this way, but I'm also so grateful to have a friend that would offer me that.
Right. One of his friendship cutscene moments where you can choose what to do.
Yeah, it was really lovely. Just a little tiny bit of a thing, but thank you for asking, because I would have forgotten.
Great.
With that, I would have forgotten to say that. So I'm glad that you mentioned it. So yeah, still mining new and lovely little things out when I least expect them.
In related Stardew news, my wife, who was very obsessed with Animal Crossing, 10,000 billion hours during the pandemic. She went on a work trip, and she unlocked every freaking thing in Vampire Survivors, has not touched Animal Crossing in so long as most of us have. And just needed a game that was like, I need a distraction. I need a purpose. I need a grind. I need to like have goals. She's always like, I need goals. So like playing Vampire Survivors on a phone, which is so simple yet so deep, and you're constantly working toward unlocking, checking off boxes and stuff. She's like, that's the kind of games that she wants and craves. And I've been begging her and trying to convince her to try Stardew again for literal years. I don't know why she didn't click with it in the first time she tried. But I'm like, you know what you want, and you're describing a game, and I'm telling you that Stardew Valley is the game that you want to play. And I gave her Balatro is on Apple Arcade, and she has the subscription to Apple One or whatever. So I was like, you could just try Balatro, and she played a lot of it. And she's like, really got into it, but she's like, there's not enough progression. There's not enough meta progression. It's all about unlocking jokers that you randomly find and then mixing them together to create runs. But once you're done with the run, you don't like upgrade your hit points or whatever. You just start from the beginning with the chance of encountering those cards in the future. And it's not hitting the mark for her of like, when I do this, even if I fail, even if I die in Vampire Survivors, I'm still unlocking, I'm still getting gems, I'm still getting currency, I'm still leveling up, whatever. So I was like, you need to start playing Stardew, and we're going to start it this week or this weekend. She's like, fine, but I think she has finally agreed to like give it another chance. And I'm pretty excited to see like what she thinks of it and how she starts it out, because if she just gives it that inch, I think she'll be like, as you know, fully hooked for centuries to come.
Right. I sure hope so. We all need that game to just groove on.
She needs that game for sure.
She deserves that game to groove on.
Go.
We all do.
There you go.
We all do. I'll
report in if it hits. Not much going on for me right now. I am also searching for the thing that I really want to like sink my teeth into, and I haven't quite found it yet. I'm really still committed to Baldur's Gate 3 and not playing it as often as I would like, but making progress there. I think I'm inching toward Act 3, though I'm not fully there yet. And man, oh man, it just gets better and better. Like the way the plot moves and the way the discoveries and the twists and turns of this game are just spectacular. And I do truly think Baldur's Gate 3 is the best video game I've ever played. Perhaps one of the greatest games of all time, if not the, within its parameters, within its genre, of course. But It just does everything. It just does amazing. Like how this clockwork machine works, how the decisions you make affect this world, and how does it all actually work in the end is truly mind-boggling. Like the amount of choices and dialogue, and like you could fucking murder everyone in your party and just go do something else, and somehow, some way, the story will continue to progress. I can't. And I am also save scumming because there were certain things that happened. I'm like, well, this character is just, I cannot allow her to die here. So I just have to rewind and to make another choice, because it's just not acceptable for this to happen given what I want out of this game. So truly amazing. Not a ton else, but I did want to mention this mobile game that I randomly realized. I think it just recently came out. And it is, I gotta look up the actual name here. One moment. Wizardry Variants Daphne. The weirdest ass name for a game, and I will explain why. Is there a Wikipedia entry for this? Not exactly. There is a wiki there, the Wizardry wiki. Oh my god, this thing is ancient. Are you familiar with the Wizardry franchise at all?
My only memory of it is an NES game named that, and that is literally it.
Yep.
But before that, wasn't it on like PCs and Apple and stuff? Like, it's really old, right?
Very old. I'm on the Wikipedia entry for the franchise. The developer is a company called Sur-Tech, and the original game was released in 1981, and I think it was primarily PC. And so it is a super traditional dungeon crawling game. The franchise is where you are. It's in first person, and you have a party of adventurers. Typically 6 adventurers, I think, is your core group. And you're creating characters, and you're moving in first person on a grid through a dungeon. And you're facing the enemies head on, and it's turn-based combat. And many of these games probably will feel very ancient and archaic if you were to fire them up now, but they are widely credited as the inspiration for all of your favorite JRPGs. Like, basically, Final Fantasy does not exist until Japan sort of got its hands on Wizardry PC dungeon crawling games, and we're like, whoa, turn-based combat, and you can make a party, and which then, of course, is all rooted back to Dungeons & Dragons, which is all rooted back to Tolkien, which is all rooted back to fairy tales and mythology and whatever. So I remember I'm not necessarily a fan of Wizardry because the games are they're brutally hard. They're very a lot of like inventory management and systems and skills, and which I do love. But back then as a kid, so there was one game called Wizardry Bane of the Cosmic Forge, and it was exactly that, dungeon crawler, make a party. And I do have memories of this game being like, this game is cool and I want to like this game, but like I just walk 3 steps complex. And just get my fucking ass handed to me, because it's not your like kill 10 rats or hey, your first enemy is a slime. It's like you turn a corner and it's like a fucking skeleton and you're dead in 2 turns. And I'm like, what the fuck? How do you play this? So very, very brutal games. But somehow I was on some Discord or subreddit and they're like, oh, a new Wizardry game for mobile. And I'm like, what is this? So I download it. And so, yeah, it is Wizard. And I think this is made by a Japanese studio. Yes. It's definitely made by a Japanese something. Oh, it might be on Steam as well. It's on mobile, iOS. The font on this wiki is horrible. Anyway. Is it on the main thing? One moment. Wizardry. It's not even on the main Wikipedia page. So it's made by some sort of Japanese developer. I need to look it up. which is interesting because I was like, oh, is Wizardry like a Japanese franchise? But no, it was a US franchise. But I think it became, they made many Japanese games and it became very popular in Japan. So I think there's a lot of there's a lot of shared Eastern Western love and fandom and history intertwined with this franchise. So anyway, it is exactly a Wizardry game, but it's also a gacha game in an interesting Genshin style thing.
Really?
Where your main character is kind of like it opens with like, you're dead in a dungeon, and then somehow through some magic you get reanimated and you are like a ghoul. You're like a faceless, amorphous, like adventurer, ghoul, undead type person.
Okay.
But you have this magic power where if you find the remains of dead adventurers in the abyss. So the premise is that the dungeon, there's a town and perhaps multiple towns and cities to be in and explore, but the abyss is this like horrifying dungeon that only opens once every 100 years. And so now the clock is struck and now the abyss is open, and I think there's like a missing king or something. And so I think adventurers go into the abyss to make their fortunes, but also it's really horrifying down there and most people don't make it back. And so you have somehow woken up in the abyss. It's not clear what time period you're from. And you have this magic power where if you find the remains of a dead adventurer, you can reanimate them and bring them back to life. And then it's like, oh, you've discovered a priestess who is lawful neutral and has these healing abilities, and cool. Now she's in your adventure roster. And then what you're doing is you're building parties based on who you reanimate back from the dungeon. And you can also you find junk in the dungeon, which is like this pile of metal, and you put it back together, and all of a sudden it's a helmet or it's a sword or it's a staff or whatever. And so at first it's like, whoa, what is this cool system of like, finding stuff and putting it back together? And then you're like, oh, right. These are just pulls from Genshin Impact or from Pokemon or whatever.
Right.
You're generating, and you're hoping to. So you're going in the dungeon to try to find good stuff, and then you're pulling RNG to hopefully get. And there's different tiers. There's like adventurer remains, legendary priest remains, legendary fighter, whatever, and you can try to kind of pick and choose. And there's a currency system, so I'm getting currencies by logging in, but I actually don't understand how to spend them or how to use them to make better parties. So I'm still kind of learning it. But I wanted to shout out the game because it's a super traditional dungeon crawler, but with very detailed and meticulous gear and party mechanics. And it's got the modern flair of a modern gacha mobile game. It plays in portrait mode, which I love. So when you're just kicking back in bed or whatever, you don't have to. You're not holding your phone. You can play it with one hand. You can just hold your phone comfortably, which I like and I appreciate. And the controls are very intuitive, so you're just kind of swiping to move forward and backward, and you're swiping to turn around, and you can tap on a little magnifying glass to like look around in the environment. And so it's marrying this like super, super old school dungeon crawler with like really good mobile game design. And then I have to say, I'm like blown away by like the graphics and the animation specifically, because like this could have just been like boop, 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 go on a grid and like static assets or like whatever. But like when you attack with a party member, it's a first person, right? So you're looking at the world through your own eyes. So when you attack, you like run up to the monster and like slash it with your weapon, and then you like jump back, and it's all 3D. So it's like, it looks like a modern console game. And then when your party member attacks, you sort of like look a little bit to the left because they're standing beside you or they're standing behind you. And you see these fully animated 3D characters like leap forward into your field of view and like slash through. And it's like, it's almost fully voiced. And it's very all the. This is why I got a little confused about the lineage of the game. Like all these characters are very anime. They're all animate out. You know, all the ladies have anime outfits and boobs and everything. But it's very good looking game. It's got good looking character design, and the monsters look fucking awesome. Like, so you just have this like really traditional old school dungeon crawler in your pocket with these really cool animations and characters and mechanics, and it's kind of gives you this, again, this gotcha reason to log in and do your daily quests and log in to get your supplies. And then the mechanics of the game are like, okay, I'm exploring these dungeons, which I do not know if they are procedurally generated or not. I don't know yet. But you're at level 1 of the dungeon and you're moving through and you're finding treasure chests and you're defeating enemies. And then you're trying to make your way to the next level, to go down the staircase to go to level 2, which is obviously how dungeon crawlers typically work. But there's this like not skill, but there's not a level cap, but it's like, hey, these monsters that are barring my progress to get to level 2 are really fucking hard. So what do I have to do? I have to escape the dungeon. I have to go back to the town. I have to rest at the inn to recuperate my health. I have to sell the gear I don't want. I have to level up my gear at the blacksmith. I have to maybe reanimate a couple different things I found in the dungeon in order to say, you know what, maybe this party member should be a thief and maybe I should swap out this fighter for a mage or something. And so you're bouncing, you're going into the dungeon, you're coming back to town to like reconfigure your systems and your party, and then you're going back in. You're like, nope, still not strong enough. And you come back, you sleep, you level up, you allocate skill points and whatever. And it's just a meat and potatoes dungeon crawler, but it's got these trimmings, these trappings where there is a story and these characters are pretty cool. There's something, you meet a ghost in the dungeon who is like, wow, you're a ghoul. How are you alive? And then she's like, well, how are you seeing me? I'm a ghost. And so it's like your fate is intertwined with this very pretty blonde ghost that you're following around the dungeon. But she's kind of she's the fairy. She's the sidekick, I guess, that you have as you make your way through. And no one else can see her. So it's just you and her kind of figuring out what's going on. And I'm just like, I don't know. I'm impressed with it. Is it like, oh, this is my number one game? But it has become my sort of winding down, going to sleep game because it's just nice to play on a phone and it's nice to read a lot of stats. And then you're like, I'm very sleepy. And then you just drift off to sleep. But I'm every time I pick it up, I'm like, this has no right to be this good. This should just be a fucking bullshit, cash in on the IP, gotcha bullshit game. And it's actually quite good.
Sometimes they're good.
Sometimes they're
know.
good, right? Like Genshin Impact on your phone is fucking amazing if you like that sort of thing. So, if you have any love of like super traditional dungeon crawlers, if Wizardry has any place in your nostalgia, it's a very good one of those. I can't say enough good things about it.
Could you repeat the unusual name one more time?
Okay. So, Wizardry Variants Daphne, Daphne.
So I do not know. Anime.
Right? There was another Square game that was like Dungeon Various Day Cycle was the name of the game, or I'm not saying it right, but like I'm like, what Japanese phrase is being mistranslated to make this title? You know what I mean? I don't know.
Yeah, this is interesting. I'm looking at it as
you're looking
we
at
speak.
it, right?
Yeah, I feel like with mobile, it's such a gamble. You never know. Like sometimes I see games and I'll be, especially if I get an ad for the game, I'll be like, oh, like a part of me will kind of like groan. And then another part of me is like, okay, but there have been times when I've like felt kind of weird or mixed or whatever about what I'm looking at. And then I've downloaded it and been like, damn, this is fun.
Yeah. And it's free. So
and
why
it's free.
not?
Yeah.
And it's not like, oh, I got to make room for a big game. Oh, the big AAA release. Do I have enough room on my hard drive? It's like, nope, just a free game on your phone. Check it out. And now it's like, whoa, hey, this is a lot. There's a lot going on.
There's a lot going on. It's actually good. Yep.
So I recommend it, and I'm gonna see if I have not hit the gotcha wall. I guess I'm trying to figure out like where the monetization, where it will hit. But yeah, that's it. I don't have much more to share about games, but I'm searching. I'm trying to. I think I want to really go hard on Baldur's Gate, put it to bed, and then find something else to really fill that
focus
space
on.
in. Yeah,
I feel that. Actually, I have one more really quick thing I want to throw out. A friend shared it with me yesterday. So for anyone who grew up reading Electronic Gaming Monthly, EGM as it was known in short, there's apparently a Kickstarter now, which my friend kickstarted, and which is why I know about it, that's called the EGM Compendium. And it is basically a giant compendium of the best of EGM over the years.
Okay.
They asked for $35,000 to make this book. They have so far gotten $646,000.
Wow. Do they?
People really want this book.
I love this. And who has the rights to this? Is it people who own it who want to turn it into something? You know what I mean? Like this cannot be a fan project, right?
No, I don't think so. No, because the actual user on Kickstarter is EGM.
Yeah, okay, so whoever owns it is part of this somehow.
I'm guessing there's a couple different people on the project, but what I'll do is I'll send you a link in Discord so you can share it in the show notes, because I thought there might be some other people who, a lot of people, Nintendo Power was the Nostalgia magazine, and for a lot of other people it was this. And I just thought it was really cool that was going to exist. And they give you some really neat peeks on the Kickstarter page. And the minute you see those layouts of the pages, at least for me, I was just like, oh my God.
That's great. I love that.
Yeah, it's just awesome. So I just thought I'd mention that, and we'll put a link in the show notes should you want to go check it out and potentially add it to your library.
I love it. Okay, I'm clicking on it now. I would very much like to see... Oh, come on, give me some high res.
Oh man,
here.
A lot of classic EGM alumni.
Freaking Kickstarter, it's like embedding images, but I want to like look. I want to zoom in on them. I guess maybe the video. Anywho,
it's the first preservation effort of its kind for any video game magazine, according to this. So if you want to back it and get it, it's $50, which is not much, really,
for like a beautiful hardcover.
No, and then they have a $75 version that has like a great looking slipcover. Like, I mean, the only reason I'm not big on coffee table books is because I feel like I get them and I love looking at them once and then I don't read them.
I know, same.
And I hate that. But I don't know. Like, I think maybe there's certain ones, maybe they're worth picking up every once in a while just to do that. God, they unlocked literally every stretch goal.
This is so... I love it, and I think I'm so glad this exists, but I don't know why. I'm not nostalgic for the media coverage. I'm just nostalgic for the games.
The games. Yeah, I get it. It depends on what you read.
And it's like, okay, so I'm going to read like reviews and previews of games from 30 years ago, and that obviously has historical value, but like, what do I get out of that by owning it or looking at it? I'm not, and I know many people will get a lot of value out of this, but I'm just trying to say, like, would I want this? And I don't know that I would, but maybe a coffee table book that had every Nintendo Power in it. Maybe I'd want that, but that's because I have nostalgia for that magazine and not EGM.
I think it's very, very based on if this played a big role in your young years.
Yeah.
If you subscribed and read this and loved it, I think this is a thing that you get to experience that again when reading the book. If you didn't, I don't think you would really care that much.
Is it like a complete?
I don't know. I haven't
single image text, or is it selections?
Yeah. I doubt it, but I'm not sure. I didn't read in that deep of detail yet.
Okay. This is cool. I'm really glad you mentioned it. For those interested, we will link to it in the show notes. And
yep.
I think that's it. I think we got to get out of here and I don't know, play some video games. What do you say?
I'm ready to take a nap.
Great.
That was a lot of emotional effort to talk for this long. I'm just like, okay, I'm tired. I'm tired a lot this week. I've noticed, like, exhausted.
It's almost as if
tired.
There's
it's almost
a lot.
as if something terrible happened. I know. So I'm just gonna listen to my body, and maybe I'll just go take a nap.
Take a nap. I will eat some lunch. And listeners, we appreciate you. We appreciate your participation in this community and this podcast. And we hope you're taking care of yourselves by either, as we said, just acknowledging the things, or distracting yourself from the things, or just shouting from the rooftops about how much about your feelings about these things. Do all those things, whatever works for you, and come on into our community, join our Discord, and chat with us. We'd love to hear from you.
Yep,
that's it for now. Enjoy your nap.
I will. I'm gonna zzz.
I'm gonna zzz.
I'm gonna zzz.
Happy zzz. We'll talk at you next week.
Bye.